People think when you reach 91, the fear is death. It isn't. Death is simple. It comes, it does what it has always done, and that's that. What frightens me is something much quieter. It's disappearing while I'm still here. My name is Eleanor Whitaker. I am 91 years old. I have lived through 14 presidents, 2 wars that sent boys from my street overseas, the invention of color television, the moon landing, and whatever it is my grandson does on that phone that seems to run his entire life. I have buried my husband. I have buried my sister. I have buried friends whose phone numbers I still sometimes almost dial before I remember. I am not naive about endings, but lately, I've noticed something else. At Thanksgiving last year, my family gathered around the long oak table my husband built in 1968. It still wobbles slightly on the left side. He always meant to fix that. I never let anyone else try. They were talking about me, not to me, about me. She shouldn't be alone at night. Maybe it's time to downsize. We could rotate weekends. I was sitting right there, my hearing perfectly intact, listening to my future discussed like it was a kitchen remodel, and I realized I had become a topic, not a person, a topic. You would think I would have spoken up. I was never a quiet woman. I taught 3rd grade for 32 years. I raised 3 children who learned early that their mother had opinions. But something happens when people begin speaking gently around you. Soft voices, careful tones, words like safety and best for her. You start to feel like you are already halfway gone. That night, after everyone left and the dishes were stacked in the sink, I stood alone in my kitchen and looked at my reflection in the dark window. I said out loud, "I am still here." It sounded almost like a question. The truth is, aging doesn't take everything at once. It takes things one permission at a time. First they offer to drive you, then they insist, then they decide, and if you are not paying attention, your life becomes a series of well-meaning arrangements. I do not fear dying in my sleep. I fear becoming background noise in my own life. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I did something that surprised even me. I bought a small digital recorder. My granddaughter Lily is 16. 16 is old enough to understand pain and young enough to still be curious about it. She was the only one at Thanksgiving who looked uncomfortable when they spoke about me like that. I noticed, so I called her and said, "Lily, would you help me with a project?" She came over that Saturday with her hair in a messy bun and a cautious smile. I showed her the recorder and said, "I want to tell my stories, not because I'm dying, because I'm living." She didn't laugh. She sat down, and I began. I told her about 1954. When I met her grandfather at a bus stop in Ohio and we knocked our heads together trying to pick up the same coins he had dropped. I told her about our first apartment with peeling wallpaper and a radiator that hissed like an angry cat. I told her about the baby we lost in 1962, the one no one talks about. The grief we folded into everyday life because that's what people did back then. Her eyes never left my face. No one had ever asked me about those things before. Do you know what it does to a person to realize entire chapters of their life have gone unspoken? It makes you feel transparent. Every Saturday, we recorded. I spoke about the first night alone after my husband died. How the house sounded unfamiliar, like it had shifted its loyalty. I spoke about how I resented my children the first time they rearranged my kitchen cabinets to make things easier. I spoke about desire too, because even at 91 there are things I want. Sunlight on my face, control over my own thermostat, the right to eat dinner at 7:30 if I please. Lily asked questions no adult had asked me in years. Were you ever selfish? Yes. Did you ever regret staying married? Sometimes. Are you afraid now? I thought about that. Not of death, I said. I'm afraid of being edited. She frowned. Edited? Yes, I told her. Turned into a softer version. A simpler story. Grandma was sweet. Grandma liked roses. I was more than that. Weeks passed, and something shifted. At Christmas dinner, when the conversation once again drifted toward what to do about Mom, Lily cleared her throat and said, "Did you know Grandma once drove across 3 states by herself in 1978 because she was angry?" The room went silent. My son blinked. What? Lily kept going. And she started a reading program at her school that still exists. And she once punched a man who grabbed her purse. Now they were looking at me, not through me, at me. Is that true? My daughter asked. Yes, I said calmly. He shouldn't have grabbed. They laughed. But it was different laughter. Curious, respectful. Later that night, my son sat beside me and said, "Why didn't you ever tell us all that?" I looked at him, this grown man who once needed me to tie his shoes, and said gently, "You didn't ask." It wasn't an accusation. It was simply the truth. Here is something no one tells you about old age. We do not shrink. Other people simply stop zooming in. The recordings continued. Lily began editing them into little audio files and called the project Still Here. Last week she played one for the whole family. When it ended, there was real silence. My daughter reached for my hand and said, "I didn't know all of you." "That's because I was busy being your mother," I replied. "I am still their mother, but I am also myself again. I am 91 years old. My hands shake. I misplace my glasses while wearing them. I need help carrying heavy groceries. But I am not fading. I am layered. And as long as someone is listening, truly listening, I am not disappearing. Death will come when it comes. I will greet it the way I have greeted most things in life, with stubborn curiosity. But until then, I refuse to become a polite summary. I refuse to be spoken about in soft tones while sitting in the room. I refuse to be edited. Last Saturday Lily asked me, "Grandma, what do you want people to remember most?" I thought for a long moment and said that I was complicated. She smiled and said, "Good. That makes a better story. And that, I think, is the whole point. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of disappearing. And as long as my voice is still telling the truth, I am still here."